Star Wars Tales of the Jedi is the latest animated Star Wars series from creator Dave Filoni and consists of 6 different shorts that take place in different times throughout the prequel era.
And who might you be?
So right off the bat, one of the things I really like about this show is the animation. It's a really gorgeously shot show. It looks beautiful throughout. Dave took it upon himself this time around to give it all great environments and great scenery. Another thing that's great about the show is, much like Star Wars Andor, I think it could be a great entry-level show for a lot of non-Star Wars fans as well, and it can get people interested in actually checking out more Star Wars content just by watching these 6 little shorts. I love that Dave actually makes an effort to give all of these shorts quite a bit of substance too. It might be my favorite thing that Dave's ever done on the animated side, right under Clone Wars seasons 3 through 7. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a brief synopsis of each of the episodes. I will not spoil the outcomes or any big plot points. And if you're a non-Star Wars fan and looking to binge and do a Star Wars marathon, I'm going to tell you where each of these episodes take place. And even if you're just kind of a casual Star Wars fan already and you want to do a Star Wars marathon, this could help you out as well. So I'm really looking forward to being able to do this for you guys. So even though I would technically watch this after episodes 2 and 3 of Tales of the Jedi, the first episode is Life and Death, and it actually takes place before the first movie in the prequel trilogy, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which if you're going to watch Star Wars chronologically, that would be the first movie you would start with anyway. So you're going to want to watch this one before The Phantom Menace, and I would watch it after the next 2 episodes I'm going to talk about. This episode really does show you the origins of Ahsoka Tano from birth in a very cool way, and it kind of does go into why she becomes a Jedi and how the people of her village kind of figure all that out. And I'm not going to go into much detail other than that, but I had a really great time with this episode. I just think it's a beautifully done episode. It looks pretty, and the story is actually compelling with a lot of suspense and a lot of tension. You definitely learn more about Ahsoka's home world. It's new information that even I, as a Star Wars fan, didn't really know much about, so it was very cool to see. The second episode of Tales of the Jedi is called Justice, and this was actually the one that I would put on first if you're going to do a chronological order Star Wars binge marathon. This also predates The Phantom Menace, but it also predates that first episode, Life and Death, that we just talked about, where they show the origins of Ahsoka Tano. And in this episode, you're going to follow a very young Qui-Gon Jinn and a much younger Dooku at this point, who is now Qui-Gon Jinn's master at this point in time, which is interesting to see Dooku on the side of the Jedi. It's very cool. I didn't think we'd ever get this on the screen, but hey, here we are, and I think that this adds a lot of context going into the prequel trilogy, and I like this episode a lot. I thought the story, again, just had a lot of substance, a lot of emotional beats. It's very action-packed. The scenery is incredible. It's actually probably one of my favorite Star Wars environments, to be honest with you. It was really fun to spend time in the world that they go to, which I won't give much away about. I won't even tell you about the mission, but I do like the dynamic between Qui-Gon and Dooku. The one thing that I'm going to nitpick about this episode is I do wish that Qui-Gon's voice did sound a little bit more like Liam Neeson. I wish they would have made more of an effort to do that. But outside of that, this episode's a great time. I even like it more than Life and Death, the first episode of the series. The next episode is called Justice, and we get to watch Count Dooku and Mace Windu go on a mission together. And to put this one in chronological order, it does predate The Phantom Menace once again. I would put it after Justice, but before Life and Death. And I really like the dynamic between Count Dooku and Mace Windu. I like that there are already ideas going into Dooku's head that will eventually lead to his later turn, as we see in Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, but we'll get to that later. This is probably my least favorite of the 3 that we've already talked about, because the overall substance of the mission to me just wasn't as compelling as the other 2. But I still found this to be a very enjoyable watch. Again, all of these are just beautifully animated. They look pretty. The animation alone makes all of these incredibly watchable. So after you're done with the 3rd episode of this series called Choices, you can go ahead and watch The Phantom Menace. After you're done with The Phantom Menace, you can go ahead and put on the 4th episode of the series called The Sith Lord. Now, this is absolutely one of my favorites of the entire series, if not my absolute favorite. Surprisingly, this follows Yaddle, who we don't really know a whole lot about, but now we do have a lot more to add to Yaddle's character as Star Wars fans, and I find that to be very compelling. We also get Count Dooku again, back in his Jedi years, and this actually does take place simultaneously with The Phantom Menace, but if you're gonna do a binge or a marathon, I mean, this would be watched after The Phantom Menace to start to set up a lot of things that happen in Attack of the Clones. So to reiterate, just watch this episode between The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and you should be perfectly fine. The substance of the story in this episode is what makes it. It's very dramatic, a lot more dramatic than a lot of you guys are going to be thinking for an episode that really follows Yaddle. And it kind of covers up a plot hole that we have in the prequel trilogy, which I really enjoy. The 5th episode of Tales of the Jedi is called Practice Makes Perfect, and you'll want to watch this one after you're done watching Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, and then after you watch the Clone Wars movie, and then this would fall in probably right after that before you start up the Clone Wars series. And this takes care of something that's always kind of bothered me about the Clone Wars series, is that we don't really dive into Ahsoka Tano's training as much as we probably should, and this pretty much takes care of that. That's all I'm going to say really, but I thought that Ashley Eckstein coming back to the role of Ahsoka Tano and then having Matt Lanta back as Anakin was awesome to hear. I do love their voice work as these characters in animated form. I actually prefer Matt Lanta's Anakin to Hayden Christensen's Anakin, which is probably interesting to a lot of you, and a lot of you probably think that's an unpopular opinion. But I do love their dynamic every time they're on screen together, and it really works in this episode, guys. I mean, it's great. This is actually one of my favorite Anakin and Ahsoka moments ever. It's probably my second favorite episode of the series. I will say, if you do watch this before even ever having seen the Clone Wars series, there is something at the end that's kind of a foreshadow, but you won't really get it till you finish the Clone Wars series anyway, so you should be good to go. So to reiterate, watch the Clone Wars animated movie, watch this episode, and then go through the Clone Wars seasons 1 through 7, and I think that'll take you on the right path. The 6th episode of Tales of the Jedi is called Resolved, and I really like this episode. It's probably my 3rd favorite of the series. Of course, I love to get more Ahsoka, which we do in this episode, and this is kind of Ahsoka after the events of Revenge of the Sith a little bit. And I don't want to give many more details than that. If you've ever read the Ahsoka novel by E.K. Johnston, you could probably have a little bit of an idea of where this is all going to lead to. And you'll want to watch this after Clone Wars seasons 1 through 7 and Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith once again. This episode actually has really cool action. It's beautifully animated. It has a really decent little storyline there that makes it incredibly watchable. I do like the substance of the episode and what it all kind of means for Ahsoka's journey. So after you watch Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, then you watch this episode, then you should be good to start Star Wars The Bad Batch, then you can go into Solo, a Star Wars story, then you can watch Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi, all 6 episodes of that. Then I would recommend Star Wars Andor, which is still kind of airing right now in its 1st season, then Star Wars Rebels seasons 1 through 4, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and then you're good to go on the original trilogy, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, episodes 4 through 6. All right, guys, I hope this kind of helped you understand the concept of Tales of the Jedi and what it's all going to kind of be, and I do hope you guys really enjoy this show. Again, I just thought it was really beautifully done. It's my 2nd favorite thing Filoni's done in animated form, right under Clone Wars seasons 3 through 7. That is always going to hold a special place in my heart. And then I would put this above Rebels just ever so slightly, but not by much. I do hope this helped you guys plan a really fun Star Wars marathon, but again, if you are new to Star Wars, you could just honestly binge these 6 episodes and get really invested and interested in what else is out there for Star Wars and kind of go from there. But this just kind of gives you an idea of the timeline and maybe where to put these. I hope a lot of you guys are watching this today. I had a lot of fun with it. I want to thank you again for joining and checking out the content here. If you haven't done so already, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave some feedback in the comment section, share this with your friends, and hit that bell for notifications. Once again, I have been Martino. Thank you guys so much for joining, and I will talk to you guys later.